to start with Elise.
Good evening. I'm Elise Hall, Assistant Director of Title Programs, and welcome to our event this evening.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Foster, and I am the Online Curriculum Integration Coordinator here in the David Douglas School District.
And also on our leadership team is Francesca Altman, and she is the School Improvement Coordinator at Alice Ott Middle School. She is not able to be with us tonight, but she has been working alongside us every step of the way. And I should mention, for those of you not able to be here tonight, we are recording this presentation so that you can go back and watch at a later time. Would really like to highlight all of the teachers that you see on this page in front of you. We have representation from all different middle school grade levels in all of our schools. We also have a vice principal on our team. So it's really important that these teams come together, and they're going to be looking at their experiences and what they know about the science of reading and teaching. And then they're also going to be looking at input from you and students to make this very important decision. So we encourage you, if you have any questions, to please reach out to any one of these teachers in our district, as well as any of us on our leadership team. So with that, Carrie is going to share with you our process thus far.
So this is our language arts adoption timeline. We have a very thorough process that takes about a year. The Language Arts Adoption Committee was formed last spring, and these are teachers who volunteered to be on the committee, knowing the very heavy time commitment. This year-long commitment includes professional learning on the science of reading, anti-racist, anti-bias training, systematic review of all state-approved curriculum, and data analysis of student feedback, which we'll talk about in a little bit. The curriculum members have engaged in over 45 hours of synchronous and asynchronous work for this adoption thus far, and there's a lot more to come. Next slide, please. So elevating student voice has been an important part of our adoption process because they are our primary stakeholders. We gathered student voice in two different ways: through a student survey given to students in grades 3 through 12th, and by conducting some student empathy interviews in grades 1st through 12th. Student empathy interviews are students telling us their stories about reading and writing and what matters to them. For example, we asked students to tell us about a time that learning was exciting or interesting at school. We also asked students to tell us what they wish they could spend more time reading and writing about at school. We learned there were several themes of what students wanted in a curriculum. Those themes included content that connects to current times and issues they face in their lives, learning about their own culture and other cultures, lessons and books that represent multiple perspectives and identities, that the lessons include interactive assignments and experiences, choice in what they learn, read, and write about, and multiple ways to learn and show what they learned. Really, students just wanted the opportunity to be creative. Next slide, please. So in addition to student voice, other drivers of our priorities are represented on the screen. You saw before that we go through a very thorough vetting process. As you can see, there are a lot of things that drive our local priorities. So it includes Freedom Dream number 1, which was developed by our staff of color, looking at research, analyzing our data and student feedback data, partnering with ODE by reviewing the Oregon Department of Education's scorecard for each curriculum, and learning about how each publisher aligns with state adoption criteria. We have also been able to participate in several anti-racist, anti-bias trainings. The most recent training included analyzing text through an anti-racist, anti-bias lens. All of these components together helped us develop our local priorities for adopting the next language arts curriculum in the David Douglas School District. So all of our learning and feedback narrowed it down to these 6 priorities. So these include student representation in text, embedded universal design for learning to allow for students to demonstrate their understanding in various ways, scaffolding that supports differentiation, and building background knowledge to set students up for success in units and projects that they will engage in. So currently our teachers are in the process.
Prioridad número 3 está enfocada en diseños universales de aprendizaje con varias maneras para que los estudiantes demuestren comprensión. Prioridad.
Señora Ana, are you in the Spanish room?
I am.
Okay, because we can hear you in the English room. Señora Ana, Señora Laura, can you take over while we try to fix this? So sorry, everyone. Go ahead, Carrie.
Thank you. So currently our teachers are in the process of piloting and trying out lessons. As they are implementing the curriculum, they are looking for the degree to which these priorities are embedded in the curriculum. You will see these priorities again in the community survey that we will be sharing with you shortly. You will be telling us which of these are the most important priorities for your student to succeed. Your feedback will be a very important consideration for our team as they make a recommendation for our next language arts adoption. Next slide. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Elise.
Good evening. So we wanted to take a moment to focus on the role that you play and that you've already started by either being here tonight or reviewing the recording of this event. We really want to have your voice and your input in our decision-making process. And so we invite you to reach out to a representative at the school that your student attends. We have teachers who are piloting and who are part of this decision-making process at each of the middle schools. So we invite you to reach out to them to hear about the process or to ask questions about the materials and to get any questions you have answered. We also are providing demo accounts. So these are online accounts that you can access that will show you the student perspective, what students would see within the curriculum, within the materials. And while we will be getting hard materials and not all online materials, to access this and for you to review and to take out some barriers around that, we have materials online for you to review. Most importantly, we ask that you respond to our survey, and you can find this on our David Douglas District website. This website or this survey will allow you to tell us what your priorities are, and if you've had a chance to review the materials, what you think would be best to meet the needs of your student. Your feedback is very important in this process, and it will be taken directly back to our teachers who are on our curriculum adoption team, and they will be using that data for their decision making. So let me share a little bit about the survey that you can find online, and we will be showing you where to find that this evening. In the survey, we have that translated in our top 5 languages. And the survey invites you to share a little bit about the basic demographics of where your student attends, the grade level, the middle school that they attend, and then asks you to rate the most important priorities from that list of priorities that Carrie shared. We know that all of those are very important, but some of those might be more impactful for your student and their successful learning. So we invite you to let us know what's the most important priorities. And then if you've had a chance to look at the demo accounts to tell us what materials you think would best meet the needs of your students. There is an optional comments or questions section on the survey that will allow you to give us some feedback that we can share with our decision-making team. All of this is due by March 21st. So just as we are moving into spring break, we ask that you complete the survey so that we have an opportunity to take that very important data from you and make it so that our teachers can easily access it as they're going through the decision-making process. So our next steps are for our teachers are piloting. So all of the teachers that you saw on the slide with the names for each of our 3 middle schools, they are committed to piloting a certain number of lessons and working together as grade level teams to pilot those materials and to see how they interact with our students. So they are in the midst of doing that. That started just this week, and they've started with their first curriculum. And during that process, they will also be getting student voice. We're asking for the students who get to experience the materials as they're being piloted to let us know, based on those priorities that they indicated were important to them, how the materials are meeting their needs. We're also asking for family and community feedback here tonight. And then on our website, you'll be able to find all of the resources and our survey. And finally, our Language Arts Adoption Committee will be taking our student survey from the pilot. They'll be using your feedback, as well as teacher feedback from those teachers who haven't had a chance to pilot. And then scoring all of that will work together to give us an idea of what is the strongest curriculum that will best meet the needs of our community. They will make this recommendation for a curriculum, and we will bring that to the school board and present that to the school board on May 12th. Once the school board approves the recommendation from our teachers, we will move into a process of securing those materials, getting them all shipped and ready for our classrooms, as well as considering how to best provide support for our teachers in learning the new materials, how they're laid out, how to best access all of the resources that they have for instruction in the classroom and support of students. So that is the lift that we are in right now. And I know Carrie mentioned that we've had a lot of hours already on this process and more to come. And those are the next steps that we are taking this spring. So I'm going to share a little bit. Here is where you are going to be able to find all of the resources from this evening's event. You will see them on the David Douglas website. And if you go, if you just click on to David Douglas School District website, right under the screen that rotates with different views, right under that is our latest news part of our webpage. And in there, you would see the language arts curriculum adoption, family and community feedback and resources. Once you click on that, you will have access to all of our resources that are at the elementary, middle school, and high school level. So you may have a student in elementary school as well as a student in middle school, and we invite you to fill out 2 separate surveys for those so that we have feedback on the 2 different materials that we are looking at for each of those grade levels. We will show you at the end of the presentation tonight where to find those, to click right on the website, and so you can see how to find those materials. Also, this is where you would find the demo account, the online curriculum materials for you to see what your students would see if they were using online materials from each of these curriculum. While we are getting, while we will be getting books and workbooks and journals, this is a way for you to see what all the materials are for students. So I'm going to turn it back over to Brooke.
Yes, and we are running a bit ahead of schedule right now, so I am not sure if our next presenter is with us. But if Julie Blackmore is here from McGraw-Hill, Lavon, can you please move her over? And just so you guys know how this will work is each publisher will have 20 minutes with us and 15 minutes of that to share about their program, their curriculum, and then there's going to be a 5-minute question and answer. If you guys don't have any questions, they can continue to share. We do want to make sure they have their full 20 minutes for sure with you. And it doesn't look like we have a publisher here yet, but perhaps we can take any questions that you have based on what you've heard so far.
Kevin has a question. I'm going to allow him to talk.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin.
Unmute. Hi, I'm actually from McGraw-Hill. I'm actually taking place of Julie this evening, so I'm your presenter from McGraw-Hill.
Oh, well, welcome, Kevin. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Okay, Kevin, I'll move you over to panelist.
I appreciate that tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, okay, Kevin, so you just heard that you're gonna have some 20 minutes to share. So we will stop sharing our screen and allow you to share your screen and share all about McGraw-Hill education.
I think as you're getting set up, I just want to make sure that that everyone is aware to put questions in the question and answer box. That's where if you had a question, logging it in question and answer will be a way for us to make sure that we're able to answer those.
Okay, so Kevin, whenever you are ready.
Okay, let me start my own 15-minute timer right now, just to be cognizant of the time this evening. And most importantly, good evening, everybody, and David Douglas. I'm Kevin Eddington, truly honored to be able to share with you some amazing dynamic resources for your students in your district, really circulating around giving your students access to high quality materials for English language arts. Now, one of the things that I really wanted to do this evening is really focus the attention in terms of our student perspective. How will your students be able to access some of these great, rich resources, all right? In the short time that I have with you this evening, I certainly can't go through everything, but I want to go through something that's very, very important to us, and that's what's known as the lesson cycle. Now, with regards to our lesson cycle, all of our lesson cycle resources and this training is really being brought about by one of our lead authors, whose name is Dr. Doug Fisher. Now, Dr. Doug Fisher has written multiple books on rigorous reading for students, and we take his pedagogy, doing it firstly in elementary, then moving it to middle school, then ultimately moving it up to high school as well. There's a 3-part approach that Dr. Fisher talks about really often in our in just getting students access to rigorous reading and rigorous writing instruction, and we take hold of that. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply move us into being online right now. And one of the things that I certainly wanted to take a look at is how do your students be able to really sort of access some of this great rich content. Okay. For the purpose of tonight's conversation, I will move us into 6th grade right now, right? So in 6th grade, I'm going to move down into one of my thematic units. Each and every one of my thematic units will last you about 30 days worth of instruction, therefore giving you 180 days worth of material in total. Parents, teachers, everything that you need to teach is found right here. You don't have to go anywhere else. All of your writing is found here. All of the reading is found here. Grammar is also embedded as well, so you're truly self-contained. Down here at the very bottom of the screen are great resources that you can lean upon for additional supports. Let's say you have a student who needs additional foundational skills. We have those resources right over there. There's also an embedded speaking and listening, grammar, language, and composition guidebook, as well as a language transfers handbook, which is also incredibly helpful for our more international students in our communities in terms of making gestures towards the International Phonetic Alphabet. Moving on down the line right over here, seen right over here on the screen, okay? Now, when we move directly on over into the platform, once again, I'll stay in 6th grade right now, and I will move on over into, let's say, personal best, right over here, okay? The first thing that I'm gonna be greeted with ultimately is my movie trailer. The purpose of the movie trailer is that it's designed to give your students an added advantage before they move directly on over into the text. Here, big 30,000-foot overview of what your students can expect to read over the next 30 days worth of instruction. I'll preview this for you right now so you can see how this would benefit your children in your own classrooms.
A young woman, a village. Terrorists attack her school. She survives, and she becomes more powerful than they could ever imagine. How can adversity help us become who we are? A faraway planet, constant rain. Sunshine only once every 7 years. In a group of children, only one has ever seen the sun. She tries to tell them. They don't believe her. How can what we know become a burden? Lights flash, cameras click, movie stars glide across the red carpet. What happens when all your hard work finally pays off? What drives us to be our best? What qualities of character matter most?
And that final question, what quality of manners really matters the most, that is going to be our essential question. Everything that we read over the next 30 days worth of content is designed to answer and address this question. Okay? Now, how do students answer this question? Moving into the integrated reading and writing path on the left is where we move directly on over into that close reading routine, that lesson cycle that Dr. Doug Fisher really takes charge of. Okay? And so he's very, very clear in terms of his expectations for what students need to be doing when they're greeted with a piece of text. Students' first task is to read the text for what it is. We model that in the first read as seen right over here. The first read is designed to put great pieces of literature in front of your students. Okay? Beyond the scope of that first read or that initial sort of phase, Fisher's next recommendation is students need to see the text for how it works or its mechanics. And how we adopt that model is in the lens of our skill lessons right over here. Here, no skill is ever taught in isolation, as we always use the previous reading to teach that skill for your students. Case in point, we teach I Am Malala, and using that narrative, we next teach your students author's purpose and point of view, as well as connotation and denotation. Here, it helps to reinforce the skills of those standards so students can see that skill found actually in a reading. Finally, this final recommendation is that students need to now reread the text to find its meaning or its significance. We model that in the lens of this close read as students are revisiting the exact same reading, but now, most importantly, your students now have another opportunity to apply that skill back to that reading, okay? Let me look at the very first read right now, and I'm gonna click underneath student preview, okay? Teachers, parents, your students are going to access this content verbatim what I'm showing you right now, okay? So I would click on this, and this would be exactly what your students would ultimately see, okay? Once again, the first thing that my students are going to see, my children, is going to be access to that intro movie trailer. Just really beginning to ground the conversation in case a student needs additional supports. How can I support that student? Okay, so let's take a look at another movie trailer of how we introduce I Am Malala.
October 9th, 2012, Mingora, Pakistan. Malala Yousafzai rides the bus home from school. But this will be no ordinary bus ride. A Taliban gunman approaches the bus and shoots Malala point blank 3 times. What threat could a girl of 15 be to extremists? Malala miraculously recovers and becomes a symbol for peace. She speaks out on global terrorism and fights for her right to an education. How has Malala's courage changed the world and earned her the Nobel Peace Prize? Find out. Read I Am Malala, the girl who stood up for education and was shot by the Taliban, by Malala Yousafzai.
As I pause it right there, just enough context for your students and for your children to get access to the reading. Okay. Beyond the scope of just that intro movie trailer, we'll next move directly on over into the reading. Now, as a student, I have options in terms of how do I want to access this reading. I can access the reading of I Am Malala in print, right over here, in which I don't need, computer or an internet connection. All of the reading is going to be found right over here in the text. But I can also read from my smartphone. There's an app for students, but I can also read when I'm online. They're all exactly the same. While I'm engaging or reading while I'm online, I can also mark up the text. I can make some annotations. I'll take my cursor, drag it across a piece of text, and now note that I have the ability in order to create an annotation. Okay. So if I want to remind myself to reread this, I can create that note, and automatically that's going to be found right there. Okay. Other things that I can also do to enhance my time in the text is certainly take advantage of the audio button right over here. Okay. All the audio changes for every single one of your stories. Okay. Let's take a very quick listen.
From chapter 13, The Diary of Gul Makai. We had a special assembly that final morning, but it was hard to hear with the noise of helicopters overhead. Some of us spoke out against what was happening in our valley.
As I pause it right there, that might be all. Some students need access to getting to the text. Okay. Other students might need additional supports, such as the highlighter tool, which will remove the annotations, but watch what happens when I resume the text.
The bell rang for the very last time, and then Madam Mariam announced it was winter vacation.
Okay. I can pause it right there. Once again, hopefully you're able to pick up how the audio is visually tracked for your students. Okay. The final way that we can also extend the reading is in the lens of the slow audio button right over here, which will slow down that audio by about 20 to 25%, yet still maintain that same high quality resolution. Okay. In the interest of time, I'm going to move past the quiz and move on over to the think questions. Okay. With regards to the think questions, all of your students are going to answer these questions, but they want you to go back into the text and use very specific examples, citing textual evidence. As a student, when I write down below my response, I can move from part 4 to back to part 2, but to make it easier, I'm going to hit split screen mode and now have the reading as well as my questions on the left. So it makes life a lot easier for your students. Okay? Now, even with all of these resources, I still might have some students who might struggle with getting access to the text. And we understand that at McGraw-Hill and with StudySync. So to make this a lot easier for our more global international students in your classrooms in David Douglas, we're able to set up what are known as the scaffolds. So when you take a look at the scaffolds, I can set this up for individual students. Every single time your students and your children log in, they can automatically be given what they need. For instance, here, if I have a student who's a beginning level English language learner, I can make that recommendation for that individual student, as well as I can also draw from 8 international languages as well. Okay? So case in point, if I have a student in my classroom that speaks Vietnamese, what can I do for that student? Okay? Select Vietnamese. Now, notice that there's a new button right over here on the left. Okay? These speaking frames are designed to go along with the videos right over here. Okay? When I get to part 2, notice we have vocabulary, both in English, in English right over here, definition, as well as the image. But when I scroll on down, notice here I have my language level summaries. Okay? Let's take a very quick listen in terms of how do we give a large overview to I Am Malala.
Khi quân Taliban muốn chấm dứt việc giáo dục cho học sinh nữ tại Pakistan, cô bé 11 tuổi Malala Yousafzai đương đầu với chúng và sau này trở thành người trẻ nhất đoạt giải Nobel.
So I'll pause it right there. Once again, those international students have an added advantage before we move directly on over into the reading down below. Okay. Once again, in the interest of time, I'll move past the quiz and move into the think questions right over here, in which students are still going to be answering the exact same questions right over here at the very bottom. But most importantly, notice now that they have the new added advantage in terms of these sentence frame starters. The sentence frame starters give your students and give your children the opportunity to answer the questions. They have words at the very bottom. They pick those, move on up. They can fill in the blank and then copy their response directly on over to the right. Okay. So it's these type of resources that we can give out to your students on a daily basis. Okay. We can also close on out of that and then next move on over into our skill lesson. I realize I only have 1 more minute with you. And so here, just as a very quick overview of the skill, trying to provide a large overview for how text works for your students. Here, we adopt the gradual release model of responsibility, the I do, the we do, and over here with the model. So showing exactly the skill found right over here for students, and then the your turn, which is that application. We reread, then we answer questions, okay? All right, in the last 30 seconds that I have with you, I'm gonna move on over into the close read right now. Click that preview. Once again, this is exactly how that student is going to interact with the text. We have our basic vocabulary here, dragging and dropping, adding a sentence. That second rereading of the text right over here for students. A way to upload and have some conversations in our classroom right over here. It's a preview movie of students talking. And then finally, after the end of it all, that final write phase is giving students that opportunity to respond back to text, okay? Brooke, I know I went the full wire, 15 minutes right now, so let me go ahead and just pause right there.
Yeah, and that is great. Thank you, Kevin. And we would then just pause for if there's any questions from any of our participants, and you can raise your hand and ask verbally, or you can also write it in the chat. And we can take any questions. And if there aren't any, Kevin, you'll have 5 more minutes to share any other highlights from your curriculum.
Okay.
So we'll wait a moment just to see if there are any questions. Okay, and I don't see any at the moment. So you can still, if something comes up, but then Kevin, you have a few more minutes then. We have till 6:45.
6:45, okay.
Yeah. Oh, I think one just came
I have a
in.
question that come through. How does the workbook work? I'm thinking there's only great access to all the tools online. Okay, so how does the workbook work, Danielle? Is that your students will be, your children will be receiving brand new notebooks every single year for the lifetime of your adoption. Okay? Now that's something that's worked out with your local sales representative. I don't know if Teresa is on the call this evening, but Brooke, you and Teresa will work out how students will be able to get these. You get them every single year. So you write in them as a student, and we give brand new ones every single year. Okay. Now, when we are engaging with the readings right over here, the reading here, just click the preview right over here, word for word is going to be found what's here on the page. Okay. So if you're thinking about how students will be able to access the reading, the actual words, same thing, word for word, okay? Now, when we are in class, let's say maybe that's when the teacher is going to play all of the videos, such as this video right over here, or another video, such as when we move on over into the close reading of watching other children talk about the text, okay? But your students will always have access to the readings, as well as they can also access all the readings from their phones, as well as in case that if a student needs to take advantage of the video, they can do that while they're offline or away from the internet connection. Okay, I hope that's helpful, Danielle. Okay, all right. Brooke, are you seeing anything else come through on your end in terms of?
I am not seeing anything at this time, no.
Okay, in the last 2 minutes, oh, I think something came through. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that confirmation, Danielle. Okay, all right. In the last 2 minutes that I have with you, I just want to talk about Sync TV. Okay, Sync TV is really, really great because it shows students actually talking about the text, which is really important. Okay, so like I said, in the last 2 minutes, let me show you what this is going to look and actually feel like right now.
Can you imagine if they closed school for good?
I'd be like, sweet.
No, you wouldn't.
No homework for the rest of my life.
Oh, hey, Samra. Okay, so my new hero is officially Malala. Did you guys watch her UN address?
No, but I saw the documentary she talks about in her memoir.
Oh, me too.
After I saw how violent the Taliban is, I thought about how brave she was to stand up to them.
Yeah, but she just likes doing school. I mean, when she finally returned to her home in Swat Valley, the first thing she did was check on her schoolwork. I mean, I like school and all, but not that much.
Well, it's like she says, when someone takes away your pens, you realize quite how important education is. Maybe it takes losing something to realize how important it is to you.
I get it. Should we read the prompt?
Yeah. Malala claims that the Taliban is anti-education due to a fear that education leads to westernization. How does Malala, an educated 15-year-old Pakistani, confirm or contradict these fears?
Okay, whoa.
Okay, as I pause it right there in the last couple of maybe 30 seconds that I have with you, just to kind of show you how students can actually engage with some very, very serious conversations in our classroom. Okay? It's not enough for students just to read the text and be silent, but it's really about how do we have students talk about the text amongst their peers. Okay, Brooke, am I at time right now?
You are at time. So thank you for keeping such good track, much appreciated. And thank you for sharing all about McGraw-Hill and Study Sync. It's been very informative.
Our absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, Brooke, for the opportunity, as well as thank you everybody this evening. Take care, everybody.
Enjoy your evening.
Likewise.
Okay, our next presenter is going to be Amplify. And so we have Brooke Johnson. So if you can move Brooke Johnson over. And Brooke,
Both moved over.
You can share your screen. And again, Amplify Education will have 15 minutes to share about their program and what it looks like for your student. And then we will have 5 minutes for questions. So welcome, Brooke. We're happy that you're here. And thank you for signing in a little early for us. Much appreciated. We are running a bit ahead of schedule. So you'll have till about 7:01 or so, 7:02, and then we'll pause for questions. Okay, and I can't hear Brooke. I'm not sure if she's talking.
How's that?
Oh, that's better.
Here I am.
Perfect.
Sorry about that. All right,
No
good
worries.
evening.
We'll go till 7:02 and then we'll do questions.
Thanks, Brooke. All right, good evening. My name is also Brooke Johnson. Before I became a product specialist for Amplify, I was a middle school ELA teacher down in San Diego Unified. I'm so glad I get the opportunity to share this program with you tonight. I know we have limited time, so I'll get started right away. Learning in middle school, it can be challenging, but it can also be fun. Every Amplify ELA lesson is designed to help your child, really thrive academically, socially, and emotionally, while also developing those essential skills of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So much of this program is really centered around collaborative learning and really building that community of readers and writers within the classroom. So everything that our students do is tied to the rigorous grade level texts that make up our curriculum. So your child will experience multimodal learning that really plays off the strengths of a wide variety of learners. So they'll find media tools, digital apps, and a variety of visual and physical experiences to really support and enhance their learning. Our lessons are challenging, but they've got strong supports and differentiated instruction that's going to be built right in. And best of all, these units, they're engaging and they make students want to learn. And the texts in our units, they're really centered around texts that reflect the diverse histories, cultures, and identities of our students here in Oregon, while also focusing on the classics like Greek mythology, Romeo and Juliet, Edgar Allan Poe. And the digital platform, it really makes the text come alive. So I'm going to go ahead and share some examples, some quick examples from each grade level. 6th grade, one of our units is the Titanic collection. And in this unit, each student is assigned a passenger from the Titanic's manifest. So they're going to consider gender and class issues as they research, write narrative accounts from the point of view of their passengers. So they'll see images of the living quarters and the menus offered to the different social classes. And then finally, they'll participate in a Socratic seminar in which students rely on their research to argue and support their positions. Now, in our Poetry and Poe unit, 7th graders, they'll explore a variety of Poe's classics like The Raven, Cask of Amontillado. Students get the opportunity to discover, you can see it right up here, the concept of an unreliable narrator through something we have called the Telltale Art app, where they get the opportunity to storyboard the Telltale Heart from both the reader's and the narrator's point of view. Now, in the Cask of Amontillado lessons, they take the idea of reading like a movie director to the next level and trying to understand Montresor based on trying to view the story through his perspective. They then deepen their reading by designing the sets, selecting the actors, defining the characters, really based on particular details that they read. And then once they've worked with the explicit details of Poe's text, they have a front row seat for the making of an animation by one of our Moonbot studios. So their earlier close reading will allow them to watch this animation with a strong eye to another director's choice, and they'll use this critical perception to write a movie review. In our Liberty and Equality unit, 8th graders will explore the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass. And in reading it, students will do a deep dive with this classic persuasive piece, learning the ugly facts about the history of slavery, but they'll also see a living example of how the power of language can change an entire culture.
Narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave, Chapter 1. I was born in Tuckahoe, near Hillsborough, and about 12 miles from Easton in Talbot County, Maryland. I have no accurate knowledge of my age, never having seen any authentic record containing it.
So you may recognize Chadwick Boseman. His dramatic interpretation of Frederick Douglass really brings the text to life. It has 8th graders captivated. I get the opportunity to go into the classroom and do these lessons all the time. That's a really rich, powerful unit. So in addition to the core curriculum, we also have quests. So at every grade level, your child will enjoy an immersive experience that really brings the text to life. So the Who Killed Edgar Allan Poe quest, it allows 7th graders to practice their close reading skills and detailed writing skills and to really explore characters from the world of Edgar Allan Poe in depth. It's very similar to the game of Clue, So day one of the quest, students arrived to class to find a chalk outline of Poe on the floor of the classroom.
Oh my. Here I am. Well, there I am too. So I was right. There are indeed ghosts.
Students will use text to figure out who caused Poe's death: Annabelle Lee, Mark Twain, Lenore the Raven, and in which room with which weapon. And they're using text to support all of their thinking. They'll maintain a digital detective's notebook as they work to solve the mystery. And we have these at every grade level. They bring students together for an immersive team experience that ends up feeling so much like a game. Our Amplify ELA lessons, they will be challenging. We want to make sure your children are prepared for high school and beyond, but we also want to make sure that each student receives the support that they need. So your child's teacher will be able to assign extra support to individual students at the level that the student needs. So this may be sentence starters or additional instructions, but students will automatically see those supports within their own accounts. We really want to make sure that each student receives the support they need without calling out extra attention or putting them on the spot. We want students to experience success while still being challenged. So you see there's many levels of support, in addition, a challenge level as well. And this is all automatically going to be seen on their accounts. In fact, if I take you into the curriculum and show you one of our lessons, your students will be following along with their teachers and their accounts. But when they see a writing prompt, for example, right here, do you agree or disagree with the narrator's description of what is happening? That's the core level. But a student that maybe needs a little bit of extra support, their teacher can automatically assign that support so that when a student is looking at their own account, that support will automatically be there with sentence frames, extra instructions. We have moderate, heavy support, and we also have a challenge level in addition to our core. In addition to embedding these supports, the curriculum will also provide unit background documents in both English and Spanish. And we also have translated glossaries from 9 different languages, including Chinese, Russian, and Vietnamese. And finally, in addition to our lessons, the Amplify ELA digital library includes over 700 full-length books that your child can access at any time. And this is even outside of the curriculum. So we've got all sorts of selections, contemporaries, classics, and a wide variety of genres. So your child will have all of these books available to them at all times. So thank you so much for allowing me to share Amplify ELA with you this evening, and I'm going to open up for any questions that you may have for me now.
If you have a question, you can type it in the Q&A, or if you click the raise hand, I can unmute you and you can talk.
I don't see any questions at the moment. So Brooke, you still have a little more time. I don't know if there's anything else you want to share or to use your time, or we can end too if you are finished. Oh, there's one question.
There's a question.
Okay, what does the challenge support look like?
Oh, good question. I'm going to actually go back to that same one that we had right here. So the prompt that we're asking our students, do you agree or disagree with the narrative description of what is happening? And this is tied to one of Poe's questions. The challenge level is asking the same question, but it goes a little bit more in depth. What would a counterclaim be to your perspective? So one thing I didn't mention before is because everyone in the classroom is responding to the same prompt, yet getting the support that's specific to their needs, when the teacher has that share out session, the entire class can participate together because essentially they're answering the same prompt. And for those students that need even more of just this additional one, we do include challenge writings in most of our lessons as well. So you can see from this lesson right here, we bring in an entirely new piece of text and they do a comparison, compare and contrast with this. Actually, they're given two options for argumentative prompts for this. So you'll see these throughout this lesson. We really designed this program to meet a wide range of learners within the same classroom. Because we know that we're going to have just a big range of learners. So we designed this so that every student gets the support that they need, but we're still building that community of readers and writers within the classroom. So thank you for asking that question.
Okay, any other questions?
And the teacher platform is nearly identical to the student platform. So what you see right now, all of this rich artwork, it's really engaging for the students. They're doing so many different things with the text. I know I showcased a lot of, those high interest level pieces with students. There's also
Maria has a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Maria.
Señora María, ¿tiene una pregunta?
It was probably accidental. Continue.
Okay, and thank you for showing us this beautiful artwork. It is very stunning to look at and engaging. Okay, is there anything else you want to share? Or if not, we will move forward with our agenda.
No, I think we're good. I think I've shared everything that, showcases us.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And again, thank you so much for joining early. We really appreciate how responsive you are.
Certainly.
Okay, so we will move on and say goodbye to Amplify. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay, and can you see my screen? With next steps. Okay, so we are way ahead of schedule, which I know nobody's going to be too concerned about that. But we did want to end with showing you again. Elise talked earlier about how you can give feedback in this process and where to find it. So there is a survey. Again, you have access to demonstration accounts where you can get in and you can see the student-facing digital account. Now, when we go to order materials, once we know which selection we're going to make, we will ideally do a combination of print materials and digital. It's really important that our students are fluid, but we still value having books in hand and having physical materials as well. So, but you will be able to get in and look at the digital student-facing materials. So how you can find that, we just wanted to show you because we know we showed you pictures before. But if you go to our district website, and can you see the district website? Great, okay. So, and then if you scroll down to right here, this is what Elise was showing the screenshot from you. You do have to scroll to the bottom to the latest news, language arts curriculum adoption, family and community feedback and resources. So click on this link. Okay, that should take us to a new page. And again, you may need to scroll. It starts with elementary. So if you have an elementary student, that may be of interest to you. But for tonight, this is what we're looking at right here. You can see Amplify if you want to click on to the demonstration account. Very important that you pay attention right here to the username and password that you need to input. And then the same with McGraw-Hill. So you can click on, enter the student name and password, and then you will have access to look at that student-facing curriculum. Also, really important is the survey that we're going to ask you to take. And if I click on a survey here, you can see that it is in a Google form. And really important that we are not collecting email addresses. This is an anonymous survey. We really do want to know what you think and not feel like anybody's monitoring who sent that in. So what we want to know is what middle school your student attends, what grade levels, and then what are your top priorities for this language arts adoption? And again, our committee will be making this decision, but they will do so with feedback from students and feedback from you as well. So we're going to ask you to give input on what do you believe are the most important priorities for the success of your students? Rank the following. So if I think instructional materials that are grounded in research is my first choice, maybe my second choice, maybe my third choice, you guys will tell us based on what you see as you look through the materials. And then you're going to tell us, I believe the following support the learning needs of my student. It could be, you know what, both curriculums would be great. I don't have a preference. Or if you're leaning one way or the other, this helps us out. So please mark. And then any other comments or questions that you have for us. So this is where you can find any of the materials. And then just so you know, what's going to happen is the committee will come together and we will be making this decision on May, the second Thursday in May. Is that May 10th, I believe? We will take that to our school board because our school board, the committee makes a recommendation and then our school board ultimately approves that purchase. And then these materials will be in classrooms and will be used in the fall of 2022. So when your students come back for the next school year. So I'm going to go back to our presentation and share my screen again. Okay, and again, this takes you again so that you can see what that survey looks like. Due by March 21st. That is really important. So please, if you want to give feedback, please do so by March 31st or March 21st. And then we just want to thank you for your time. And if there are any last minute questions, we are a little early, so we can certainly take them. And if not, we will say goodnight to all of you. And again, this will be shared and it will be on our website for viewing later if you want to see again or for anybody that wasn't able to make it.
Brooke, can you share, just provide an overview of what's happening tomorrow evening, our next community input meeting for high school, just for the parents that are here?
Yeah, so tomorrow night we are doing the same presentation. If you have a high school student, they are two different publishers. So they will not be the same two publishers that you heard tonight. You're going to hear from Open Up Resources and Inquiry by Design. Those are the two that our high school team narrowed down to. So again, you're going to hear about the same process has been the same, just with high school teacher leaders, but you're going to hear from two different publishers. Same type of survey that we're going to ask you to complete. So, and the time is the same time, 6 to 7:30. So if you have a high schooler, we hope you can join us. Okay, and I see one question in the chat. Will you be sharing your preferences for each curriculum? Things you know about McGraw, and things you like about Amplify. You know, that is such a great question. And truly, through this process, our role in this process is to really facilitate it, and not to make the decision. So, what we do is we create the conditions, and so that people can make their own informed choices. What's really important to us, though, is that student voice is elevated and that your voice is elevated as community members. So yeah, so as people who facilitate that leadership team, truly we do not sway the vote one way or the other. We just try to make sure everybody has all the information they need to make an informed decision. We can say that the curriculum that you see at any of these grade levels has already gone through a very rigorous vetting process. So in David Douglas, we adopt from materials that have already been approved by the State Board of Education. And when Carrie talked earlier about partnering with Oregon Department of Education, they have a very rigorous scorecard that they use that goes really deep into different aspects of the curriculum. And if it doesn't make that round, then we don't even look at it. If it's not adopted by our state board, it doesn't come forth to the next round. And then as Carrie mentioned, then we look at different outside reviews of the curriculum. So we start broad with the state board, we look at outside independent reviews, and then we narrow it down to our final two. So I can say that whichever curriculum the team decides, it has been very thoroughly vetted. And so whichever direction we go, we can feel confident that we are putting good materials in the hands of our students. So great question.
And Brooke, can I add something to that?
Thank you.
So like Brooke had said, student voice is an extremely important part of this process. And while we gathered some student survey data and conducted student empathy interviews last spring and the fall, we also are looking at the student feedback as part of the pilot process. So the teachers who are piloting the curriculum in their classroom will also be gathering student input on what aspects the students liked of the curriculum and whatnot. So, and that will be part of our consideration when the team makes a recommendation to the board.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. And Danielle, your next question, can students try out the two in the trial online? So yes, so any student that has one of the teachers that are on the team that you saw in that earlier slide, they're going to be piloting here. I think it's the first pilot started today, and they're going to get experience actually with each of the two curriculums, and as Carrie mentioned, giving feedback. For students who have teachers that are not on our curriculum adoption committee, those teachers still have access to the demonstration accounts just like you do. So they can still start exploring, they can still do some teaching of lessons if they choose. They won't have full access or complete access as the other teachers do, but they can certainly get exposure. And of course, students have access, the demonstration accounts that are on our website, anybody can access. So any student can go in, any of you can go in and they can start looking and around and seeing what they like as well. Great questions. Any other questions?
Herman's had their hand raised. Herman's, I'm going to allow you to talk. All right, feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Okay. And I don't know if Herman's, if maybe that was a mistake or,
That seems accidental.
okay. Well, if you have any questions, we will stay on for just a couple minutes. But if you do not, we want to thank you for your time and say good evening. And again, if you have a high schooler and want to join us tomorrow, hopefully we will see you tomorrow evening. So thank you so much. We appreciate your time this evening. Okay, and the one, I do not see any new questions coming in.
All right, that seems like it's it. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to end the meeting.
Okay, thank you.